Hey everybody, it's Mike. All right, so today I want to talk to you about getting a more balanced perspective, not being so hyper focused on, comments and things like that. And let's look at the whole package, the whole picture of the dance of toxicity that happens when an untreated borderline gets together with a non-borderline, and what results when those two people decide to become enmeshed in a romantic relationship. So I'm going to be reading from a website. If you want to go check it out, you can. I was just looking around at stuff and I saw this and I thought it described very well my understanding and my experience. And so this is called whatiscodependency.com. And then I think this is a therapist here. And so I guess this is just one of many pages on her site talking about loving a borderline. So I'm just going to read it because it's really good. And then I'll share some of my thoughts and comments at the end. So, loving a borderline. Caring about someone with borderline personality disorder tosses you on a roller coaster ride from being loved and lauded to abandoned and bashed. Being a borderline is no picnic either. You live in unbearable psychic pain most of the time, and in severe cases on the border between reality and psychosis. Your illness distorts your perceptions, causing antagonistic behavior and making the world a perilous place. The pain and terror of abandonment and feeling unwanted can be so great that suicide feels like a better choice. For all of the angry codependents, she uses the word illness, and she is a mental health professional. So sorry about that. I didn't make that up. All right, let's keep going. If you like drama, excitement, and intensity, enjoy the ride because things will never be calm. Following a passionate and immediate beginning, expect a stormy relationship that includes accusations and anger, jealousy, bullying, control, and breakups due to the borderline's insecurity. She also calls her a borderline. Sorry, somebody told me I can't call them borderlines, but here's a mental health professional using the two words I apparently wasn't supposed to use. Nothing is gray or gradual. For borderlines, things are black and white. They have the quintessential Jekyll and Hyde personality, fluctuating dramatically between idealizing and devaluing you. They may suddenly and sporadically shift throughout the day. You never know what or whom to expect. The borderline's intense emotions elevate you when they're in good spirits and crush you when they're not. You're a prince or a princess, a bastard or a bitch. If you're on the outs with them, all their bad feelings get projected onto you. They can be vindictive and punish you with words, silence, or other tactics which feel manipulative and can be very destructive to your self-esteem. That's an understatement. Unlike bipolar disorder, their moods shift quickly and aren't a departure from their normal self. What you see is their norm. I don't know anything about bipolar, so I'll just have to take her word for it. Their emotions, behavior, and unstable relationships include work history, reflect a fragile, shame-based self-image, often marked by sudden shifts, sometimes to the extent that they feel non-existent, made worse when they're alone. Thus, they're dependent on others and may seek advice frequently, sometimes from several people on the same day, asking the same question. They're desperate to be loved and cared for, yet are hyper-vigilant for any real or imagined signs of rejection or abandonment should you, for example, be late, cancel an appointment, or talk to someone they see as competition. For them, trust is always an issue, often leading to distortions of reality and paranoia. You're seen as either for or against them and must take their side. Don't dare to defend their enemy or try to justify or explain any slight they claim to have experienced. They may try to bait you into anger, then falsely accuse you of rejecting them, gaslighting you, making you doubt reality and your sanity, and even brainwash you. In their desperation for caring, they can behave in ways that feel like emotional manipulation. Cutoffs of friends and relatives who betray them is common. By the way, this is also true of codependents. Maybe not to this degree, but Everything here is also true of just regular codependence. I've seen it and experienced it. Borderlines react to their profound fears of abandonment with needy and clingy behavior or anger and fury that reflect their own skewed reality and self-image. On the other hand, they equally fear the romantic merger they try to create because they're afraid of being dominated or swallowed up by too much intimacy. In a close relationship, they must walk a tightrope to balance the fear of being alone or of being too close. To do so, they try to control with commands or indirect maneuvers, including flattery and seduction, to reel in their partner and then use their anger and use rejection to keep him or her at a safe distance. Whereas narcissists enjoy being understood, too much understanding frightens the borderline. Again, as true as that is, I'm reading it, I'm also finding it true just right here in my experience with codependents, just trying to control me. They try to, I'm going to read it again here, and now apply it to codependents. They try to control with commands or indirect maneuvers, including flattery and seduction, to reel in their partner and use their anger and use rejection to keep him or her at a safe distance. My experience is that in the comments that I've gotten, people do, if they're passive aggressive, they'll throw out a comment, say what they really want to say without identifying themselves or putting their own feelings to it. They'll state something as fact, which usually isn't, that they want me to do or they want to convince me of. And then they'll try and shame me by saying something about something I've shared or say that they think that I'm still sick and in pain and, or they will call me a narcissist. And it's interesting, people call me a narcissist because I won't let them talk me out of my opinion. Anyway, as I was just reading that was interesting. Now, let's get on to the other half, she writes, with codependence. Generally, borderlines are codependent and find another codependent to merge with and help them. They seek someone to provide stability and to balance their changeable emotionality. Codependents and narcissists who act self-sufficient and control their feelings provide a perfect match. They're easily seduced by the borderline's extreme openness, charm, and vulnerability. In addition, the borderline's passion and intense emotions are enlivening to non-BDPs, who find being alone depressing or healthy people boring. These partners vicariously come alive through the melodrama provided by the borderline. So that's why I'm going to start calling codependents, among other things, trauma responders, because that's absolutely the case. That they have a problem being alone, they're depressed, they've got all kinds of insecurity and major pain within them. Normal people who would love you back are boring to them, but the drama and the chaos and the trauma itself that borderlines experience, this is what enlivens them. So that's why I call them trauma responders. So again, a lot of codependents who want to fight with me on, is codependency a mental illness? Is it an issue? Is it, they want to minimize it. There's still this main problem of how the hell you got into the relationship to begin with. And you can't really, you can say my experience was that the next thing I knew, I was involved in some craziness, which is your experience. But, why did you stay is another, question. Because on an unconscious level, despite all of the pain, despite all of the chaos, you got off on the intensity of the trauma that was being experienced by the borderline and the trauma that they create. I'm not saying that you loved it, that you enjoyed it consciously. I'm not saying you walked into a relationship with a borderline and said, hey, I want to be abused. Of course not. That's why they call it unconscious. Your unconscious issues that you're not aware of drove you into it, drove you to overlook all of the red flags and continue to stay even after you are being abused and rejected continuously. You're going to only focus on the trauma. You're going to only focus on your perception of their need. You're going to only focus on your guilt for feeling like you need to be there, even if they've rejected you. I know because I experienced it. After I would be rejected, I found myself going, my God, why am I feeling guilty? Why am I feeling I need to call her and take her back? Why am I feeling like I rejected her? Those were all induced feelings from the borderline that, because that's really how they felt, even though they say, stay away from me. Underneath it all, they're saying, don't reject me. And I was picking up on that and feeling guilty, even though she was the one that was splitting with me and breaking up with me all the time. All right, so let's get back here. The borderline may appear to be the more dependent underdog in the relationship, while his or her partner is the steady, needless, and caretaking top dog. Those aren't my words. But in fact, both are codependent on each other. It can be hard for either of them to leave. They exercise control in different ways. Codependents also yearn for love and fear abandonment, as well as the borderline. Codependents already have low self-esteem and poor boundaries, so they placate, accommodate, and apologize when attacked in order to maintain the emotional connection in the relationship. That's really important. They often become caretakers. They do sometimes to the point of self-sacrificing or enabling. I can remember that. I can remember always, looking back on it, I wouldn't normally have done it, but because, again, the love bombing, when it hit such a deep need in me that I didn't want to lose that. And it was so shocking and surprising that the split happened. It was, consciously, I couldn't understand what was going on. So when she would split or attack or criticize or, in the ways that she did, devalue, I would seek to always placate and take it on. If I needed to take on the blame, I would, in the hopes that I could get her to love me like that again. All right, in the process, back to her website. In the process, codependents give over more and more control to the borderline and further seal their low self-esteem and the couple's codependency. So you guys now, been asking me, and I came to the conclusion that, I knew that, but I came to start saying borderlines are codependent also. But the whole thing is codependent. So those of you non-borderlines who are trying to say you're different from the borderline, I'm not as bad as they are, you're codependency. Borderline personality disorder is a disorder of codependence. Your codependence manifests differently, but it's at the same level, or you wouldn't be with them. And or you allow yourself to be brought to that level. I would go so far as to say your ability to tolerate how deeply they take you into your lack of self-esteem and lack of control and lack of self reflects the depth at which on an unconscious level you already were. I'm not saying that, you didn't become aware that your life got a lot worse. I'm just saying, I think wherever somebody's level is, when they hit their level of tolerance, that's when they get out. So there are some people who get out earlier than others. So anyway, let's keep talking here. Let's see. So once again, in the process, codependents give over more and more control to the borderline and further seal their low self-esteem and the couple's codependency. Giving in to their partner and giving them control does not make either of them feel more safe. I love that. But the opposite. Borderlines need boundaries. Setting a boundary can sometimes snap them out of their delusional thinking. I can hear all of the codependents going, oh, great. That's all I have to do. I'll set boundary. That'll make them stop. Setting a boundary can sometimes snap them out of their delusional thinking. Calling their bluff is also helpful. Both strategies require that codependents build their self-esteem, learn to be assertive, and derive outside emotional support. The relationship can improve when the partner takes steps to heal their codependency. Let me repeat that. The relationship can improve when the partner, the non-BDP partner, takes steps to heal their codependency. All right, then she goes into making the diagnosis, which causes and treatment. I'll read this part. The cause of borderline personality disorder is not clearly known, but often there has been neglect, abandonment, or abuse in childhood and possibly genetic factors. People who have a first-degree relative with borderline personality disorder are 5 times more likely to develop borderline personality disorder themselves. Research has shown brain changes in the ability to regulate emotions. Unlike narcissists who often avoid therapy, borderlines usually welcome it. Really? However, before recent treatment innovations, its effectiveness had been questioned, which led to stigmatization. Then it goes on to say things about what you can do. I guess I should just go ahead and read this. Today, borderline personality disorder is no longer a life sentence. Studies have shown that some people recover on their own, some improve with weekly therapy, and some require hospitalization. Long-term treatment is required for maximum results. Let me repeat that. Long-term treatment is required for maximum results, with symptom relief increasingly improving. A 10-year study showed substantial remission after 10 years of therapy. Use of medication and DBT, CBT, schema therapy, and some other modalities have proven helpful. Most individuals with BPD have another co-occurring diagnosis such as addiction and/or depression. Acute symptoms diminish more readily than temperamental ones, such as anger, loneliness and emptiness, and abandonment dependency issues. I wish this person had written this better because I don't know which one. I don't know, are these ones she's listing, are those the ones that diminish more readily, or are they temperamental? I guess temperamental, because anger and loneliness, maybe that's a temperament issue. So those take longer, whereas the acute symptoms, anyway, I don't understand what she's trying to say. Borderlines need structure and a combination of knowing that they're cared about, plus boundaries that are communicated calmly and firmly. Learn to be assertive and set boundaries. For partners, it's also important to seek therapy in order to raise your self-esteem. Okay, and then she lists a bunch of stuff. So if you want to go check out her stuff, you can go to whatiscodependency.com. Looks like she's in Southern California there by the telephone number. So I just gave her some free business. There you go. So, you know, I have to say I'm shocked at this stage. What is it? 6 months on since I started. I started January 1st, and we're now coming up to, 7 months or 6 months. So I'm shocked at the results based that I'm seeing on the comments on this channel so far. In the beginning, I did get some really nasty attacks from what I assumed to be untreated borderlines. And then when I took interest in the channel again and I started doing it, I got targeted by 2 mental health professionals. One is a self-confessed recovered borderline, and another one is a self-confessed partner to a borderline. So I'm going to come to the conclusion that both of them were not, in a state of recovery at that time that they felt to do the weird things that they did. I blocked both of them from any kind of communication. That was interesting. But then what has been most interesting since then is all of the codependents who first want to hammer away at me by telling me that I'm vilifying the borderline and I should stop saying that they have a mental illness and I should stop calling them borderlines, and they're telling me all these things to do. I came to realize that the reason why they're doing that is not because they're trying to protect the borderline, but they're trying to protect their fix, their addiction. Because if they were to become fully aware that their borderline partner had a serious mental issue that would end up forcing them to be discarded, in other words, they do not have the ability to fix them, which is their addiction, chasing after the fix that they can never quite give. If they are forced to realize that their relationship is doomed if their partner is not conscious and not seeking therapy for borderline personality disorder, then since they don't want to admit that, they're going to attack me, because that's basically my message. If you're with an untreated borderline, get the hell out. The kindest thing you can do for them is get the hell out of the way. Even if they're chasing after you, begging for you to stay, you say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I wish I could, but I'm making you worse. You need help. You need therapy. Talk to me in a year and I'll meet with you at the therapist's office and we'll take it from there. It's the kindest thing you can do for an untreated borderline. People, if you're in a relationship and you're a borderline and a codependent and everything is great, who cares what I have to say? But again, and then so that's the one thing. What was the most recent one? The most recent one is that codependents want to argue with me about the definition of being a codependent. Who cares? Who cares? You're in it. And the next question, this last comment, argument somebody started with me, that they were claiming was not an argument, even though throughout the whole thing they were telling me what to do and what not to do, and then telling me that I needed help, and then sending me off to websites and watch videos about the problems that I have, and that so codependent. This person said, and please stop asking, are you happy? Which is very telling. Because yeah, that's true. All of the other stuff, what is the definition of codependence? What word should we use for the people who are suffering from the whatever you want to call borderline personality disorder? The point of all of it is, are you happy? I'm happy. There are things I would change in my life. I'd love to bring in, a love partner again. I don't know that I'm ready for that. In fact, I'm rejecting it, so that tells me that I'm kind of in a good spot because I'm not desperate. I'm not taking anything that comes my way. But I am happy and I'm functional. I don't mourn over the loss of my borderline ex. In fact, I don't even think about her unless I'm doing, these videos. I don't have any anger or any resentment. I don't have any unforgiveness. I see her for who she is. Now I've got 6 months afterwards. I'm looking back with, hopefully 20/20 vision. I'll probably learn more as I get more distance from it. She really was impaired, and that's not her fault. She couldn't help doing the things that she did. She's responsible. If she chose to get therapy, she could heal, but that's her business, not mine. And so if you want to be where I'm at, where you're not filled with pain, you don't have scars within you. Some people, I'm going to carry around the scar. I said that afterwards. Maybe you can see it in some of my early videos where I say, I think I'm broken. I don't feel broken anymore at all. I've been enjoying dating. I've been enjoying sex. I've been enjoying all the things I thought I was never going to be able to enjoy because my borderline ex, destroyed my insides. The thing that healed me was looking at me, looking at what I was really doing, my selfishness. I was a trauma responder. I had the cape on. I was going to fix her. I'm going to be the master of fixing her. Come on, I'm going to love you and you're going to get better. Come on, stop with all the splitting. What's wrong with you? No, it doesn't matter how many times you reject me. I come back even harder. I love you more. I'm the lovinator, right? I was that guy. And it was because I was selfish. It was because I was controlling. It was because I was disrespectful by not respecting her, saying, I don't want you in my life anymore. I was only seeing the real trauma that was there, which was what I was responding to within myself. And I was replaying old scenarios with my own parents and my mother. And I was trying to fix the pain within me. It was called unconscious projection. The pain I saw in her, waking up in the middle of the night, crying and weeping for how painful and sad she was, as true as all that is, was also me crying about my own pain, for having lost the love of my life, for having had neglectful, abusive, overprotective, perhaps borderline mother. All of that. I had to get ruthlessly honest with myself. That's how I became happy again. So if you want what I have, I've got a 3-step process. I didn't make it up. Everybody I know that has been in these kinds of things and has achieved a real sense of recovery has done all three of these things. One, find a qualified therapist who knows how to deal with codependence having to do with relationships with cluster B personalities. Number two, go to a 12-step group for codependents like Codependents Anonymous, or Al-Anon, or Adult Children of Alcoholics. You can go to coda.org, I believe. And you can go to an online Zoom meeting right now, work the 4th step and the 10th step on a regular basis. And then the third one is spiritual discipline. I don't care if it's going to church, meditating, yoga, tai chi, whatever the hell it is, some kind of spiritual discipline. The 3, therapy, 12 steps, spiritual discipline. Those are the things that have helped me to recover. Now, I've been doing this stuff my whole life, so after having slipped into that, I didn't even know borderline personality disorder existed, and I tripped and fell into that bear trap. And thankfully, I was able to get out after 3 or 4 months. And then I was really, 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 really screwed up, more so than I can remember in a very long time. And I dove into what I knew. And within a matter of, I would say, probably 3 weeks to a month afterwards, I was back to my old self. And I'm absolutely convinced if I had not done the work, I would still be in that place. I would still be wounded and scarred and broken and all of that. So if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. If you don't want what I have, don't do what I do. If you have another way, mine isn't the only way. But the real question is, are you happy? The last person I said, stop asking, are you happy? Everybody has different definitions of happy, as if I didn't know that. I understand that. What makes me happy isn't going to make you happy, and vice versa. But it sounded like this person was saying, admitting that they weren't happy, and they didn't want me to judge them for not being happy. I'm not going to judge you. You can live however you want, in whatever state you want. Do you want to be happy? I do. That's what I did. So that's what I share with you. I have no problem with you finding whatever works for you. Having said that, let me give the disclaimer I should have given in the beginning. I'm not a therapist, so don't take any of my words as a replacement for actual therapy. Any actions you take are your own responsibility. All right, so that's it for me this time. The dance of toxicity and how to escape. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.